the one that gets it out.
Yeah, you're right, John. The source I talked to that's close to the situation said that Mack, Bill Powers, and Mack's agent had been discussing this for quite some time. Mack did not want this to get out over the internet. He wanted to be able to tell his team, tell his staff members. The source I talked to that said they expect Mack to resign by the end of this week. He'd be very surprised if it went on longer than that. And also, not coincidentally, Friday is Texas's football banquet, so perhaps it gets announced at the banquet or before the banquet.
Not a dry in the house there. All right, we've heard about the Board of Regents meeting on Thursday. They're going to discuss the president and the relationship of Powers with Mack Brown. Is that playing into this thing, or is that another red herring?
Well, actually not, John, and that's kind of a misconception out there. The meeting on Thursday is to discuss, as you mentioned, Bill Powers, the president. That's one of the subjects being brought up. Actually, by Texas state law, you have to put on the agenda what will be discussed. So there will be no discussion concerning the football coach, but certainly Bill Powers, who supports Mack Brown, his future could be actually voted on at this meeting, which could have some impact. But from the individual I talked to that is aware of all these discussions, said it's already a foregone conclusion that Mack will not be back with Texas in 2014.
All right, Mack is beloved except for those that do not love him. 8-5, 9-4, 8-4 this year. Those were his last 3 seasons. How much of this is pressure from alumni and the like that, I mean, to a lot of folks, those are great numbers. To a school like Texas, they expect more.
No, you're right. And also you add in the fact you've got a new athletic director. And no matter what football coach you are, you don't want to work, be at a school where you're not working for the athletic director that hired you. And Steve Patterson comes in new to the job, and these have not been the best of years for Texas. Since they won the BCS title game, they haven't lived up to that the past 2 years. Mack got off to a dreadful start this year. Give him credit, though. He fired defense coordinator Manny Diaz. The Longhorns rallied, actually went down to the final Saturday with a chance to win the Big 12 title, weren't able to do that. And so I think, that was the next logical decision, was that Mack would not be allowed to return, would resign. It's just that he's not being able to get this information out on his own terms.
Mm-hmm. They put together really a blue ribbon panel of alumni for a search committee to come up with Steve Patterson as their new AD. Now, if you don't have a football coach and you have a, uncertainty surrounding the president's office, how much of the new search, if it's out there, is going to be charged with Patterson? How much might he have to wait and hear from some other folks and take their input?
Yeah, no question. He's going to have to take input from other folks. I did ask my source, what possible replacements Texas may be looking at, and he said that any reports that Bill Powers or anybody at Texas has contacted Nick Saban while Mack Brown is still the coach were 100% false. They would not do that. Now, he also said if Nick Saban ends up being the Texas coach, then so be it. But in no way has anyone at Texas contacted Saban or any representatives of Saban. But you look at the possible candidates, and most of the people that make sense have new long-term deals. Gus Malzahn, Art Briles, Saban reports are out there that he may be working on a new deal. So it'll be interesting what direction they go. And then also Steve Patterson, who comes from Arizona State, there was some language in his contract that he would not be able to talk to Todd Graham at Arizona State. So it's going to be interesting because no question this is one of the top 3 jobs in the country.
Right, because Graham, he's been there 2 years, so he's about destined to be on the move. Let's set Saban aside for just a bit, though, because it is a job, as you mentioned, that every coach would like to have, and yet realistically the number of people that are out there that would be a satisfactory guy to fill it is very few. So what are we looking at besides just big names that you can come up with that might be able to be the next guy that's not John Mackovic or David McWilliams?
Well, I think some people that they could look at, and I'm not saying that these people would be interested, but David Shaw at Stanford, possibly Charlie Strong at Louisville. Perhaps they go after Les Miles at LSU. Larry Fedora's got ties to the state at North Carolina. I think it's anybody and everybody, and certainly, as we talked about earlier, it's one of the premier jobs in America. And it'll be interesting. These guys that have the new long-term deals, are they set in stone, or is there a possibility they could get out of that and end up in Austin?
Right. There's certainly a difference between a signed contract with a buyout or, we have an offer sheet agreed to with deal points. So I'll leave you with this. Give me this gut instinct. Is it Nick Saban? Do you think that's the first call that Patterson and his group make?
Oh, I think it's the first call. But I'd still be surprised if Saban ends up at Texas. I don't think he will end up there. I think the last job he'll coach at is Alabama, and then I think he'll go into TV at some point.
All right, ESPN's Brett McMurphy with more on the perhaps future resignation of Mack Brown, which could come as soon as the end of the week. Thanks, Brett.